So basically what we're going to do is, I didn't just want to dive straight in to saying, okay, this is how to use blah, 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 whatever technology to build a web service. I wanted you guys to have a good understanding of what's actually happening when you're interacting with a web service. In the old days, with some of the older web service technologies that came before, it was really not that necessary to know anything about how the thing was actually working or what it was actually doing under the hood, because the software tooling for, and I'm talking about technologies such as the original ASP.NET web services. They were the files that had an ASMX file extension, if you've ever worked with some of those old style of web services. I'm also talking about technologies like WCF, Windows Communication Foundation. What a lot of those technologies did was they wrapped the thing around with so much tooling that pretty much did everything for you, to the point where you never actually saw what was happening under the hood, and you never really even have to think about, well, how's the data getting from A to B, and how does it work? What's calling what protocols are being used? But the problem with those tools were, although it made it very easy for you as a developer, there were so many layers and complex configuration that you had to do that A, it overcomplicated things, and B, there were some fairly significant performance implications of all those layers of code that got generated. So while it was great to say add service reference and have it generate 15,000 lines of code for you under the hood that you never even knew were there and just start writing code against it, those things weren't too fast in some cases, because there's all these volumes of code that were getting executed to do what is really a very simple thing, and that is make an HTTP call to a web server, pass some data, have it do something and receive something back. It's actually a very, very simple thing to do. And in recent years, there's been a definite trend to what is called RESTful web services. And one of the attributes, if you like, of a RESTful web service is that it embraces HTTP fully, and it's full on in your face. You see it, you interact with it yourself. So what I wanted to do was start with the basics, and I'm going to spend quite a lot of time this morning not even going near web services. We'll just look at what is HTTP and how does that work and how is it used and what are the different components of an HTTP request and what does a response look like and all of those kind of things. And then we're going to take a step on and say, well, okay, well, how about the data that we wind up dealing with? Again, in the old days, it was XML. And probably everybody in the room is familiar with XML. And all of the older web service technologies were pretty much XML-based. And even more than that, they used dialects like SOAP. And we'll talk a little bit more about what these things mean. But again, things have moved on. There was a better way. There is a better way. And that better way is something called JSON. It's JavaScript Standard Object Notation is what that stands for. And that's something that you're all not probably familiar with. Some of you may be. So we'll spend some time looking at JSON. Then I'm going to introduce you to a couple of tools, but there's one in particular that I really like if you're doing any kind of work with web services, certainly RESTful web services using HTTP. There's a tool out there that I really love called Postman. I'll introduce you to that, and you'll see me using it throughout the day. It's essentially a tool where you can construct, in a little UI, construct HTTP requests and get responses and analyze what's going on. It's a testing tool, it's a debugging tool, that kind of thing. Once we've looked at those basic tools, then we'll start to look at, okay, what is a RESTful web service? What does it really mean to be a RESTful web service? And there's no black and white answer, to be honest. This is not like SOAP. You know, those older technologies, there's actually a SOAP specification, and you do it this way, and these are the rules, and this is exactly how you do it. REST isn't like that. REST is a design pattern. It's a set of guidelines, of objectives you should have when you're building a web service. But it absolutely does not constrain you to following those rules. And some people don't. You know, some people take 80% of what it says and think, well, yeah, I get what you're saying here, but I don't really like that, so we'll forget about that part. So REST doesn't constrain you to do things in any certain ways, but it is a set of general guidelines that are intended to make it easy to implement services, easy to consume services, and in particular have those services operate very quickly and be fast and scalable. And if you follow the REST rules, then chances are you'll wind up with a high performance whatever it is. There's no guarantees. It depends what you do on the back end when you're running your code as well, of course. But it is a set of good guidelines to give you a really good result. The specific technology we'll be looking at today is Microsoft's latest and greatest, which is called ASP.NET Web API, and it's version 2 of Web API. And I'll give you a little bit of history of where it came from a little bit later on. And then right at the end, I'll show you a few little very simple examples of how you actually consume a RESTful web service. Again, because it's typically not project add service reference and have it download a WSDL file and generate a ton of code for you, you're down deep and dirty dealing with HTTP requests, basically. We'll show you 2 or 3 examples of that.